Prophecy, Hell, and Peter Pan. I was introduced to an artist named Alan Murphy while working on Prophecy, The Fall of Trinidad for Activision, by my producer, which was also assigned by Activision. During and following the completion of Prophecy, Alan and I forged a great partnership. I would meet him on most days in Santa Cruz or Capitola on the California coast for creative sessions and art reviews, and even to sign contracts. My favorite contract signing with Alan was literally on the Davenport, California beach, where Alan loved to surf. I waited on the shore while he finished catching a wave and he came back in his wetsuit. He laughed and asked if I would take a photo of him on his next catch of the wave. He also asked if I would take a photo of him signing the Prophecy game contract right there on the beach while surfing. And the next contract we signed on the beach as well, but this time Alan had his camera ready at hand for me to take snapshots to commemorate the signing for his wife to see. Alan and I would have design sessions on the beach or in a beachfront coffee or shake shop. It was possibly the best time for my developer career. Total freedom, no worries beyond making great, fun games and immersive experiences and working with great people. Although I enjoyed my flexible schedule and lifestyle, I also liked predictability and had my rituals. As example, Alan and I had a favorite shake shop that we regularly went to that served olala berry shakes. Olala berries are unique to the West Coast, primarily in California and Oregon. When olala berries were out of season, it bothered me that I could not have my ritual shake. Of course, I could have a blueberry shake, which is somewhat similar to an olala berry, but it was not an olala berry shake. You can see how, in retrospect, it was an odd, compulsory need to have my ritual and my olala berry shake. Didn't really realize how rigid I guess I was, following patterns and rituals and such. But I also believe my rigidity and my rituals shielded me from the crazy elsewhere in my life, past and present, and the future as it would prove. The computer game industry was small then, and so income was at best okay. It was not about money, it was about games, and the flexibility and the freedom of schedules, and being able to pursue your dreams. Your dream job of making entertainment and games anywhere for everyone you wanted to. This was a time when game creators made games for gamers and geeks. It was before the industry grew into a big and cutthroat world. It was a time when creative programmers that could partner with artists and musicians were rare, and they were empowered to design and make computer games while they eked out a meager living. But none of that mattered because I loved making games and the chance to tell my stories. Alan Murphy had an amazing resume, especially for me. He was the primary and lead artist on the coin-operated arcade game Gauntlet. I loved that game. Working with Alan was huge. After Alan finished Prophecy with me, we continued as a duo and signed on with Electronic Arts to develop Escape from Hell together. In fact, the game's official title was Richard and Alan's Escape from Hell in the end. Alan worked on one more game with me, Peter Pan and the Pirates, with Equilibrium. Escape from Hell's artist, Alan Murphy, he was raised Catholic and attended Catholic school up until university. Alan was extreme in his Catholicism and awareness of its teachings. He tried and struggled in his wish to not believe in God, but deep down he did believe in God, and in the devil, and in hell, and in heaven. Alan expressed anxiety at first taking on Escape from Hell, the Inferno, after he had done the artwork for Prophecy, The Fall of Trinidad with me. Prophecy was a story of clear good versus evil. Even if the evil was corrupted and conflicted, it did not matter. At least you could see who the hero was, and the hero was just, and the opposition was obviously bad. But Escape from Hell was not like Prophecy. Hell had otherwise good people damned like classic Greek tragedies due to perhaps one terrible flaw. Hell found justice in condemning the deceitful priests and politicians alike. Hell took no sides. All partisans and religions were represented in my hell, including Catholics, popes, and more. Hell played with the player's mind with making them employ Hitler, Mussolini, Genghis Khan, and so many more horrific figures from history. The player had to befriend them and help them to secure their own help to escape from hell. The player was given reasons to see value in these terrible historical icons. Alan struggled with the idea that such evil people were necessary people to escape from hell. We adjusted the design sometimes, so there were a lot of people that the player could have joined the party in adventuring that were not so evil, but they were in hell. Some characters the player could employ were more evil than others, and so the player could choose which degree of evil they were willing to accept to escape from hell. We even added some characters from Shakespeare, like Hamlet and Othello, so the player could use flawed and conflicted fictional, non-player characters, NPCs, if real-world bad people were just too much for them to use as allies. The extended evil ally design made the game better in the end. It made it one of the earliest open-world games akin to the Ultima and Wasteland games. For the record, Escape from Hell did not use any code or design or engine or anything from the Wasteland game series, as many on the internet theorize and surmise that I did. They're all wrong. I did extensive research for Hell, including going into deep archives in San Jose's public library that required entry permission and monitoring so that you did not damage sacred and rare materials. You cannot check them out. You cannot even take them out of the archive room. There is crazy stuff though in those archives. I found old articles from the 1800s and 1900s about vampires in America. That alone was worth the research. Of course, there were all sorts of drawings and sketches of demons and hordes of tormented people and things in hell, Hades, and the afterlife. The most moving images for Alan were actually fictional things from Call of Cthulhu. They were compendiums with decades and hundreds of horrible images, all visualized and drawn, full of hellscapes and tormented people. Art like The Screamer touched Alan in a deep and spirit-wrenching way. It did not matter where the art came from, or what religion was its origin. There was always some kind of suffering in the afterlife. The best outcome would be to devolve into an animal or an insect to learn something that you did not know before, such as an ascension or descension in the elevation of your life cycle or your journey. If not, you would go back down to lower rungs. Although devolving into a lower life form did not directly include physical pain, it seemed terrible. Just like the myth of Sisyphus' endless pushing a boulder up a hill only to have it roll back down and crush him as he neared its peak. Evolving and devolving and evolving and devolving. It was just like Sisyphus, his eternal cycle of living and hurting and dying. Maybe you learned, maybe you didn't, but it sure seemed like a repeating kind of hell to me. Of course, the other afterlife options or specials were outright locales of torment and suffering. Maybe interim neutral places like Limbo that were either waiting zone lobbies en route to the good or bad place for any religion, or eternal boredom. Given the choice of devolving and trying again versus an eternity of inescapable torment and suffering, I suppose a do-over sounds like a much better deal. The Inferno research haunted Alan. It was not just the images of demons and suffering of the tormented people and hellscapes, but also the very emotional conflict of good and evil working together united to overcome the devil and hell. I had overachieved in my goal of immersing Alan in my imagined hell. He saw what I saw. His frame of mind was corrupted, and he could see hell and feel the tormented souls and their lament. I had imbued in Alan such a potent and real sense of hell that elevated his suppressed childhood Catholic school and his conflicted religious feelings and traumas. Alan had many stories of abusive nuns and cruel priests. He had little good to say of being raised Catholic and attending Catholic schools. But it taught him fear and compliance. Sadly, Alan suffered nightmares for months before and after Escape from Hell was published. Alan's wife, Gay Murphy, pulled me aside once and said, as Escape from Hell was wrapping up, emphatically, Alan could not work for me on another Hell game. It was too much for him. It was real to him. I learned that everyone has triggers. Maybe they have a lot of triggers. It was apparent that people that were otherwise strong and smart and possessed great emotional fortitude could break with the right trigger. Whether it was the accumulation of things and the proverbial straw that was too much, or it was the one thing that shattered Alan's beliefs or crushed dreams and his hopes. Did it fly in his face in some weird way? Hell. And then there was getting something and having it ripped away from you. Alan was triggered by the evil being good in Escape from Hell. He was troubled that to escape hell and to overcome evil, the player had to use evil tools and people. He was triggered seeing ancient drawings and texts that purported hell was real. And he saw maybe they were. Images of demons and suffering souls in hellscapes stuck in Alan's visual mind, and they haunted him day and night. Alan's wife, Gay, was sincere and protective of her husband in asking that I not ask Alan to work on a sequel, which we were contemplating at the time as Hell on Earth, where the gates to hell were left open, so the hordes and the tormented would have ascended into the mortal realm, where infernal wars would have begun. Hell on Earth was a hot idea, my pun intended. I thought, but timing did not work out, and Alan was evidently unavailable to work on it anyway, per his wife. Electronic Arts had a tradition in that era of putting photos of the developers with a statement about them at the time of making the game. When Alan and I went to our creator's photo shoot, I held an Uzi submachine gun and Alan held a Polynesian statue of protection. I think that said everything about how we approached and finished the world of Escape from Hell. I was glad that Alan could end his hell project being protected by a divine force through his Polynesian statue of protection.